Hello and welcome to Mini Gaming. Next time that comes, of course, Justin. So, interesting news is broken this week, but not good news in the world of PlayStation. PlayStation is DRM now. Yay! Voice crack included, just little, popping sound. I don't know. So you get like a little surprise popper. Yay! Anyways. So yeah, this has been kind of blowing up all over the place. Turns out PlayStation now has a DRM function on the PS5 and PS4 as of the most recent firmware update. Fans have noticed it actually on the back end when they were trolling around and looking through things. Because, people look through their patch notes. You probably should, because, it's good to know what's going into your system. And they noticed that there's a weird little thing that's been added. So it turns out on the back end now, if you have a digital purchase, prior to this, if you had a digital purchase and it was downloaded locally on the system, you could play it, provided it was offline and da 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 da. But now, with how the system is based, you now have a 30-day timer that has been put into your system for all digital purchases. So basically, what this means is that if I buy a game right now after this firmware update, because this is not retroactive, some people say that probably because they would lose in the European court if they tried to do that, but now, if I bought a game as of today after this firmware update, yeah, it's a digital product, so it goes onto my system, and I unhook my PlayStation from the internet. For the next 30 days, I can play it. But after those 30 days pass, I will no longer be able to play the game until I hook it up to the internet again and do another firmware check, in which case this timer resets. And this is for all of your games. So now all of them have a timer, or all of your digital purchased games. So now all of your games that are digital purchased, even if they are locally installed, basically have a timer that once they pass 30 days without connecting to the internet, will just not let you play them anymore. So yeah, DRM, it's digital rights management. And people are understandably furious, especially because this is the same company that back in I think the PS4 era, PS4 era, clowned on the Xbox One by having the whole "this is how you share a game on PlayStation." Hands the game to person beside you. Thank you. End of commercial. Like, definitely seems a little tone deaf. And understandably, people are furious, and they reached out to PlayStation. PlayStation has confirmed that yes, this unfortunately is a thing that is in the current consoles. So fun! That said, there is a little bit of a silver lining to this. Well, first, let me tell you why they probably would do this. The reason is because technically speaking, I'm not going to pretend to know the specifics for you, but basically how it works is that there are ways to jailbreak a console through basically using some games that are not connected to the internet that are digital purchases and basically using this to sidestep some of the console's security measures, I guess, and this allows them to jailbreak games or jailbreak consoles via these digital purchased games that do not require internet access. So the logic here is that while PlayStation was trying to patch some of this out to basically prevent their consoles from being so easy to jailbreak, especially with the potential of so many PS4s on the market now and them trying to convert people to PS5 and the whole hope here is that they could prevent their consoles from being as easy to jailbreak. But again, in doing so, they kind of added this feature in. Which, what I'm trying to imply here is that apparently, according to some leaks, according to information from an anonymous source who claims to be on the inside of PlayStation, supposedly this actually wasn't intentional. Supposedly, when they were trying to fix and do all these security measures to make their consoles less easy to jailbreak, they accidentally put in this DRM as a kind of whoopsie daisy feature. It is not intentional, and upper management supposedly knows about it. However, according to the leak, the insider, while they do know about it, it's not exactly high up on their priorities list to fix it. So they do plan to fix it, but it's not exactly something they're rushing to do. So for now, we're just going to have to wait and see after 30 days when the timer officially ticks over, because once the first 30-day cycle passes, that's when people who, as Justin pointed out prior to the show, what if you went on vacation for the last, month or
If you
so,
go on
and
vacation, that's a bad thing. You're not getting your games no more.
yeah, if you have your console just not hooked up to the internet just as a baseline when you turn on, like I have mine hooked up to the internet just when I boot it up, but if you, don't for whatever reason, if you come back, you might realize that now all of your digital purchases don't play anymore. So we'll see, like I said, once the 30-day timer ticks over for the first time, we see the first increment of this, because that's when people who genuinely don't keep their consoles on the internet just just normally will have this issue crop up, and like I said, we'll see if PlayStation does anything to fix it by then. So up until this point, we're just gonna have to wait and see. Because like I said, this is only after 30 days. So,
Who knows?
from the firmware update for the next 30 days, everything should be fine. But after that, we'll start seeing issues crop up unless you have your internet hooked up. So we'll see, right? But yeah, like I said, not going down particularly well anywhere because, yeah, PlayStation, like I said, is the company that clowned on Xbox for doing stuff like this. So, oh, it doesn't look good. What do you think, Justin?
DRM is not fun.
Always with the flat-handed always with the
Flat-ended comment.
yeah, flat-ended comment there. But yeah, definitely not good. DRM is
Not great.
not exactly not great, not great. And as I was actually listening to someone from the Inside Gaming show, shout out to them, who kind of said something like this, where it definitely seems like nowadays, if you want to get into gaming just as something for you're going to do for the rest of your life, it seems like PC gaming is just going to be something you have to invest in. And this isn't even me shelling Steam here. This is just me saying that, there is competition in the PC space, and stores like GOG make it a habit of selling games that do not have DRM just as a selling point. So if you want to get into gaming just as a permanent thing, it feels like PC is more and more what you're just going to have to invest in just at some level, even if you don't fully switch over like me, who is primarily still console, because console is getting just insane with how this is going. Xbox and their
Yes.
issues with Game Pass,
Well, I
and
mean,
now
that's
this with
that's the
DRM.
thing. Like, you've got so many extra parts when it comes to consoles. Things like that, the little details to go and even be able to play online in the first place. You've got all these like blockages preventing you from being able to play. On top of the fact that getting the materials, getting the hardware to play on those consoles can be extremely difficult at times. You quite literally are better off just going with a PC, finding thing like a certain RAM and whatnot that is not so expensive and more
Good luck
readily
with that.
available. Good luck, but your odds are a little better, slightly better than getting the new stuff because the new stuff likely isn't even on the market.
Mm,
But you're better off
again,
going that route.
yeah. Like just having it like I have like a gaming laptop just so you can access things like Steam and GOG and just messing around with it. Even if you don't want to have like a massive PC mega build setup with like the best RTX card money can buy and all the RAM in the world, which will probably bankrupt you nowadays because how fucking expensive RAM is. Uh, even if you don't want to do all of that, just having a gaming laptop like I do just to access that stuff is a good investment these days because of just how insane the console market is and just how prone to change the whole thing is. I even saw someone in the comment section of that very video, I think from Inside Gaming, just being like quoting the Darth Vader of "I am changing the deal. Pray I do not change it further." Right? Like
Yep.
it kind of seems like that's kind of that's kind of what it is with these consoles, right? You're just kind of subservient to whatever they choose to decide. Now, sure, you can do backlash, and if there's enough, they might cave, but there's no guarantee that'll work, right?
Nope.
At least with Steam, or at least with PC, there's some competition with Steam and GOG, right? Granted I'll play my own devil's advocate and say PC is arguably not the solution to everything either, obviously. There are issues with PC, like I said. There's only certain stores that do the DRM thing, and like again, GOG, and even then, if you want to just get rid of the whole DRM argument, there's a long history of PC ports being
Not so
less than
good.
not so good. So, it's not a perfect solution, but it is a, option,
It
and
is.
definitely something I would recommend you invest in just as at least on a side note, even if you don't plan to fully switch over, because yeah, console can be just absolutely
Not so
tyrannical when it comes to some of their
great.
stuff. Anyways, that's kind of what we have for this show. Like I said, we'll see you in the next 30 days if Sony does anything, because this is definitely like a whole bunch of bad PR on top of it. And you gotta remember, they only recently raised their prices too, like a few weeks back. So this combined with the whole DRM thing, not a good look. I'm just waiting for Xbox to come out with an ad just clowning on them for it. But, maybe they won't do that. Xbox tries to be more civil these days. So who knows? Maybe that won't happen. But if it did, I would laugh. But anyways, that's this week's video. Hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all found it informative. And yeah, hopefully this DRM issue gets resolved and just taken out in some form, if not entirely. Because yeah, DRM is just not fun no matter where you put it. Don't get me wrong. I see where DRM can be useful in some cases, like perpetually online multiplayer games like Destiny or Diablo, where there's, a constant multiplayer aspect to it. So DRM is a nice way to prevent things like cheaters and shit like that from modding the game to just break everything. But if you got like a single player game like Fallout or something like that, or Starfield if you want to be more topical, there's really no point to it. So just having it in everything is just no. Just no. Why?
Why?
Anyways, that's the show. Hope you all enjoyed, and good week, everybody. Bye.
Have a good one.